Welcome to Boston Real Estate Times. Our guest today is Bill Kane. He's an Executive Vice President for Northeast and UK markets for life sciences giant BioMed Realty, which is one of the largest life sciences developers and owners in the country. Just now, BioMed Realty acquired Assembly Square with about seven acres of land there. And earlier, they also acquired 601 Congress Street in Boston. So we are going to talk to Bill about these acquisitions and also what is his take on the life sciences market in Boston and Cambridge, and also compared with the other pockets of life sciences in the country. Bill, welcome to our show, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amendra. It's such a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. And again, congratulations on the acquisition of Assembly Square project. So let's first start with that, how big this project is and what your plans are there.
Sure. So just as background, BioMed, for those of you that don't know, is a world-class company with portfolio assets all over the US and the UK. We're a hands-on operator with a team of dedicated employees, and we really focus on the best way to deliver life science to our tenants. In addition to delivering superior returns to our shareholders and building a remarkable environment to grow our employees. So when you think about what we're trying to accomplish, this announcement is very exciting to me personally because it hits on all of our goals. The summary is that we're announcing today the acquisition of 7.5 acres of land in the Assembly Square area of Somerville. It's currently called Assembly. It currently houses 162,000 square feet of existing office space. Mm-hmm. And we're working very closely with the city to add more capacity. The broader site is highly underutilized and there's room to grow it a lot. The bigger story is that we think this is a great place to build a best-in-class, purpose-built innovation campus in what I think is one of the greatest locations in Greater Boston. So that's the basic story. There's a lot more to talk about if.
Sure. Now, one question I would have that what is, how many square feet of space can be built there in that location which we have just acquired?
Well, we're not done working with the city, but we're hopeful that we can build north of 1 million square feet. We're also mindful of this existing building that we have there as well. So we actually acquired the land with the notion of securing development rights. We have most of them approved. We're just finalizing the last few bits, and we're going to announce that when we have that 100%. And that should be really soon. I will tell you that there's a high degree of confidence that we can increase the space by north of 1 million square feet. We can build lab, and we can do it in such a way where we can add a highly amenitized environment, add innovation space, and create this remarkable amount of visibility on in close proximity to the Assembly Square retail area. And for those of you that are familiar with the area, the site that we bought is right up against Route 93. It has extraordinary visibility to hundreds of thousands of people driving by. It has access to public transit and is in really close proximity to Greater Boston, Kendall Square, where we have a very large footprint, Logan Airport, and a number of other areas that are important to our tenants.
Now, this comes on the top of 601 Congress Street acquisition. So if you can also briefly talk about that property as well and what your plans are there.
Sure. So 601 Congress is actually in the Seaport area of Boston, a really exciting retail-rich, amenity-rich area of the Seaport environment. It already has a number of retail, fitness, restaurant, hotel amenities immediately around it. It was actually built, purpose-built to be the headquarters for Hancock.
Yes.
So with that, it has this like world-class headquarter style architecture. It's a beautiful building, and we're really excited about it. And what's interesting is it complements what we're doing in Assembly Square, okay? In that it's already built. So this would be a lab, an office to lab conversion, which we can go in immediately now start swinging hammers and immediately start preparing the space and delivering it while we're preparing Assembly Square. So we like how the two fit together with respect to time to market delivery of space.
Now, also, Bill, if you can talk a little bit about BioMed portfolio in Greater Boston area overall view, that in like roughly how many square feet BioMed owns here, and what are some of the other key properties in the area owned and managed by BioMed Realty?
Sure. So as I mentioned, BioMed has a number of really interesting cluster locations throughout the US. We're in San Francisco, really big presence in San Francisco. We're in San Diego, which is where our headquarters are. We're in Seattle, and we're also in the UK. Here in Boston and Cambridge, we had about 3.4 million square feet of lab and office space, for the most part located in East Cambridge. Very large presence, large building in the Longwood medical area as well, where there's a lot of Harvard affiliated teaching institutions. And then since over the course of the last 10 weeks, we added another 14 assets totaling 1.7 million square feet in a location down the street, and then another 482,000 square feet through what we described as 601 Congress. And what's interesting is that we have a development model and an operational model where we help our tenants grow and expand over the course of the lifespan of their therapies. So when we think about 3.4 million square feet in Cambridge, it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not enough. Okay, there's very robust fundamentals going into the market. Capital raising is more robust than I've ever seen it. Drug approvals are moving faster than I've ever seen it, and there's some really hot technology out there, like messenger RNA, RNA interference, CRISPR-Cas9. These are some of the really remarkable technologies that have just come out over the last few years and have not only played a role in drug discovery, but have played a really remarkable role in fighting off the pandemic and getting us to a number of vaccines in a very, very short time frame. So with that kind of technology and capital and drug approvals moving, the 3.4 million square feet is actually looking for more space. Tenants inside those spaces are looking to grow. And we are in the business of cultivating and curating life science environments and helping our tenants grow, not in one building and one lease at a time, but using our broader portfolio, over 11 million square feet, to help them grow on a continual basis and have optionality across all of our spaces. So this is why it's so strategic for us to open up more space at 601 Congress, convert it to lab very quickly, allow our tenants to move there, and then also allow our tenants to eventually grow in Assembly Square, where we can actually add north of 1 million square feet of density.
Okay. Now there is a lot of, you can call it hype or you can call it real demand. It seems that, life sciences developers are not able to keep up pace with the growing demand for the lab and, space for the life sciences companies. How real this demand is and how long you think this boom is going to continue, especially in the greater Boston market?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. See, it's interesting because we look at demand inside our portfolio. We look at tenants who are growing inside our portfolio who need a partner to ebb and flow and find new opportunities, not just to develop drugs or research drugs, but to develop them and to produce them and eventually commercialize them. So there are various uses that really create a high frequency, a high dynamic of use of their space. And what we like to do is we like to prevent bricks and mortar from getting in the way of developing new research therapies. So our approach to this is, first of all, how do we satisfy and further service the tenants that we have already committed to? Okay, we have really large pharma, big bio, well-capitalized, venture-backed, mid-sized companies. These are all very important relationships to us. So that's the first demand factor that is very important to us and is very robust. Since we're concentrating most of our assets in clustered environments and high-quality locations, these are usually companies that are very well capitalized with extraordinary talent. So the likelihood of their growth is very strong, and we have to be very well positioned to move them and give them options. The second part of that, I think what you were asking, is the broader environment and how much more demand is the market going to bring. And that goes back to what I see as being, in my 23 years of working in this business, I've never seen this much capital flowing into the industry. I've never seen technology moving this quickly, and I've never seen drug approvals moving this fast. And that is all fueling, probably, in my opinion, one of the strongest fundamentals in the business that are driving demand to astronomical, I'd say historic levels for Boston and Cambridge. So we have an obligation here as we work with the institutions that our buildings are located near, MIT, Harvard, Broad, Novartis, even the big pharma research organizations. We have an obligation to help them grow and keep Massachusetts and Greater Boston as a leader. We have to stay ahead of that.
Sure. So Bill, what about manufacturing space for these companies, growing companies? And does BioMed Realty also has a manufacturing portfolio as well?
We don't have biomanufacturing. We call it biomanufacturing, and that's specific to the life science industry. We don't have that in our portfolio at a grand scale. We have very small pilot facilities in some of our buildings, but a very, very small scale. But I think what you're asking about is a more industrial type, mid-size facility that needs to be in close proximity to these clusters. And
exactly.
We concentrate our buildings in clusters. It's not really the ideal environment to be building these biomanufacturing facilities.
Okay. Now, before I let you go, can you also talk about some of these important clusters just in Greater Boston or in Massachusetts?
Sure. Outside of Massachusetts?
No, in Massachusetts. Like you have a Kendall Square, of course, now Assembly Square is going to be another one. You have a Watertown, also attracting a lot of. So if you can just give some sort of an overview of these clusters here in Massachusetts.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to miss one. So
okay. Well, let's try whatever you remember. Yes.
Okay. So, of course, we have a real strong concentration of assets and investments in Kendall Square. So I'll start with that. It's where I'm sitting now, and it's where we concentrate a lot of our work. Outside, in addition to Kendall Square, there's the broader East Cambridge market, which we see to be really driven by MIT and at least 14 more institutions in this area. So we see it as a super cluster. That super cluster feeds other clusters into the Greater Boston area. And I would put Watertown in that category. I'd put the Seaport area in that category, and I would definitely put Somerville in that category, because Cambridge has very limited physical constraints. We're kind of blocked by a very strong residential base, which we care about a lot, and the Charles River. So as much as we like working in Cambridge, we're very interested in further supporting the Cambridge supercluster with all these other submarkets around it, including West Cambridge, including South Boston. And then as we go into Western Mass and Northern Mass, I'd say there's the North Shore is actually starting to build quite a group of companies as well. These are all very important to maintaining the broader Massachusetts position in the global economy.
Excellent. Bill, thank you so much for your time and really appreciate it. And again, congratulations on these two big acquisitions, Congress and Assembly Square. Thank you so much.
Okay.